Then it is said, La ikraha fid deen. There shall be no compulsion in the religion. Why? Because قَدْ تَبَيَّنَ الرُّشْدُ مِنَ الْغَيِّ. The right course has become clear from the wrong. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu reported that amongst the Arabs there was a custom that when the children of a woman, meaning in the times of Jahiliyyah, did not survive, meaning if it so happened that every time she had a child, the child would die, then she would take a vow. She would make a nadr. She would take an oath that if her child survives, she would raise him as a Jew. Why? Because according to the Arabs, at the time, it was the people of the book who were, knowledgeable, who were supposed to be, people of religion. So she would, take a vow that she would convert her child into a Jew. So when we learned that after Islam, there were some children of the Ansar, of the people of Medina, who had been raised as Jews, as people of the book. So they said, we are not going to leave our children, meaning we will force them to accept Islam. They must accept Islam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah that la ikraha fid din. There is no need to force people to accept Islam. There is no compulsion in the religion. Why? Because compulsion is needed when people are not convinced of the truth of something, or when they know that it is wrong. So that's not the case with Islam. Islam is perfect. It is true with all of its evidences. So if someone accepts Islam, good for them. It is their privilege that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided them to accept the truth. And if someone rejects it, then it only shows their ignorance, their own lack of understanding. So قَدْ تَبَيَّنَ الرُّشْدُ مِنَ الْغَيِّ. The right course has become clear from the wrong. فَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ. So whoever disbelieves in Taghut and believes in Allah, then such a person فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى لَا انْفِصَامَ لَهَا وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Such a person has grasped the most trustworthy handhold with no break in it, and Allah is ever hearing and ever knowing. So here what is mentioned is that first of all, no one needs to be forced to accept Islam. Why? Because Islam is evident. Its truth is evident. So if anyone accepts it, good for them. And if anyone does not, then they're only causing harm to themselves. So who is the person who is truly fortunate? Who is the person who is on the path to success? It is the person who yakfur bit-taghuti wa yu'min billah. Two things are mentioned. Firstly, he disbelieves in Taghut. And secondly, he believes in Allah. Yes, on the one hand, we have to deny, we have to reject what is untrue. And on the other hand, we have to believe in, we have to accept what is true. Both are necessary. So what is Taghut? Remember that Taghut, the word Taghut is derived from Tughyan, and Tughyan is rebellion. So the fact is that everything besides Allah is makhluk. Right? It is created. It is a slave to Allah. It is owned by Allah. It is in need of Allah. It is completely, entirely dependent on Allah. So Ibn al-Qayyim explains that Taghut is كل ما تجاوز به العبد حده من معبود أو متبوع أو مطاع. It is any slave that rebels from its limit of servitude to Allah, whether it is that it becomes an object that is worshipped, or followed, or obeyed instead of Allah. Meaning that when a creature is treated as God, it is worshipped besides Allah, or it is obeyed in contradiction to the command of Allah, it is followed in contradiction to the command of Allah, then such a being is what? It is Taghut. And Ibn al-Qayyim further explains that there are many Tawaghit, but there are mainly 5 heads, meaning there are 5 main Taghut. What are they? Firstly, Iblis, because Iblis certainly has rebelled against Allah, and he calls people to his own worship, meaning he calls people that they should obey him and disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, Taghut also includes any slave that is worshipped besides Allah and it is pleased with that. For example, a person whom people prostrate to. Subhanallah, people will even go and make sajda to a human being, and that human being is perfectly fine with that. So that is also taghut. Thirdly, anyone who calls people to its own worship. Fourthly, anyone who claims knowledge of the unseen. And fifth, anyone who gives judgment that contradicts the law that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. So what do we learn here? That we are supposed to reject taghut, not believe in it, and nor accept it. And you notice how one of the taghut is the one who claims knowledge of the unseen. And this also includes, for example, someone says, you pay me, I will do istikhara for you, and I will tell you what is good for you and what is bad for you. No, they're claiming knowledge of the unseen. They're claiming something that is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's right or in his power. Likewise, if someone says that they can predict your future for you, they can tell you what's going to happen. And this could be done in a number of ways. So anyone who claims knowledge of the unseen, then this is also taghut. So we should reject such things, not fall prey to them. And then yu'min billah, believes in Allah. So such a person, فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى لَا انْفِصَامَ لَهَا. Such a person has grasped the most trustworthy handhold. Such a person has istamsaka. Istamsaka is to clutch. To grasp with all of one's might, in the most with the most strength. It's like as though a person is falling. How would they hold on to something with dear life? So, istamsaka bil-urwati al-wuthqa. Urwa is a latch, handhold, and al-wuthqa, the most strong and trustworthy one, the most reliable one, the most secure one that will not break. It's unbreaking. So strong is it that lan fisama laha, there is no break in it, meaning it will not even crack because it is unbreakable. So what is this firm handhold? This firm handhold is Islam. It is Islam. It is the religion of Allah. It is the religion taught by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed on his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In a hadith we learn, Abdullah ibn Salam radiallahu anhu, he mentioned his dream to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in his dream he saw that he was holding on to a handhold, and there was nothing else beneath him now. And the Prophet ﷺ told him that urwa that you were holding on to, that is Islam. So hold on to it until you die. He said, فَعُرْوَةُ Islam, that was the handhold of Islam. So this shows us that belief is not just, some feelings in your heart. The path to success is not just, saying that I love God, or saying that, you should just be a good person. You should just be giving, positive vibes, and you should always be, thinking good and positive and be kind and all of that. Yes, all of that is excellent. But what is that means that will take you to success, that will bring about your salvation? That means is the handhold of Islam. And who is the person who is holding on to this handhold, this urwa? The person who believes in Allah, who denies all taghut. Such a person is upon Islam. And Islam is something, from this description over here, we see that Islam is something that must be held on to, meaning it is not always easy to cling to the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah. There are times when it can be very, very difficult. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ advised that hold on to it with your molars, meaning with the best of your strength, even when things get really, really hard. But you must cling to it. You must hold on to it, because this is your only path to salvation. If you leave this path, you will not be upon salvation. Allahu waliyyu alladhina amanu. Allah is the ally of those who believe. How? Yukhrijuhum min al-dhulumati ila an-nur. He brings them out from darknesses into the light. Allah is the friend of who? Of those who believe. He is their protector. He is their ally. Remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, He is the Mawla, He is the protector of His entire creation. As we learn in the Quran in Surah Yunus, Ayah 30, that وَرُدُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ مَوْلَاهُمُ الْحَقِّ, that they, meaning all people, will return to Allah, who is their true Mawla. Right? So the fact is that Allah is everyone's Mawla. But there are people who get Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's special wilayah, special friendship and protection, which means that they receive the love of Allah. They receive the support of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rectifies their affairs. He is especially merciful towards them. He does not abandon them. Rather, He is always guiding them, helping them. And this is only for those who believe, because Wallahu waliyul mu'mineen. Allah is the friend, the ally of the believers. Wallahu waliyul muttaqeen. Allah is the ally, the friend of those who fear Him. And we learn وَهُوَ يَتَوَلَّى الصَّالِحِينَ. Allah befriends the salihin, the righteous of His slaves. So when Allah is the ally of those who believe, then remember that Allah will be their ally in this world and also in the next world. In a hadith we learn that there is no servant whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is an ally to in the world and then He will hand him over to someone else on the Day of Judgment. No, that's not going to happen. Meaning if Allah is a friend to someone in this world, He will be his friend in the hereafter as well. And this is what the 99 parts of His mercy are reserved for. Meaning for His awliya, for His friends. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst His awliya. So what is the benefit over here? Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. When Allah is the friend of those who believe, then what happens? يُخْرِجُهُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. He brings them out of darkness into light. Meaning He ensures their guidance. He gives them light. Which light? The light of Iman, of knowledge, of clarity. Remember that there are three main darknesses. There's three main dhulumat. The first is the dhulma of ignorance, of lack of knowledge. When a person does not know, and in that ignorance a person is in confusion, going randomly here and there. Then there is the darkness of disbelief. And then there is the darkness of disobedience, of fisq, of disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in contrast, there are three lights. There is the light of knowledge, there is the light of Iman, and there is the light of taqwa, of piety, of the fear of Allah. So when a person believes in Allah, when a person denies the taghut, and he holds on to Islam at all costs, then what happens? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ally of such a person, which means that every time that a person goes through some darkness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring them out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide them towards light. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace their ignorance with knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace their doubt with yaqeen, with conviction. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace their confusion with conviction, with clarity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help them leave their sins and become more righteous, become more obedient. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them the ability to stay away from sin, to stay away from what is unlawful, and do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded them to do, to perform good deeds. So Allahu يُخْرِجُهُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. He brings them out of darkness into light. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. But as for those who disbelieve, أَوْلِيَاؤُهُمُ الطَّاغُوتِ. Their allies are actually taghut. And what happens when their allies are taghut? يُخْرِجُونَهُم مِّنَ النُّورِ إِلَى الظُّلُمَاتِ. They bring them out of light into darkness. Meaning once upon a time they were in light, but what happened? Because they befriended the taghut, they come out of light and they end up in darkness. Because their grasp of Islam, they let go, right? فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. They're no longer holding on to Islam firmly, right? When their grip becomes weak, when their grasp becomes weak, when their himma becomes weak, when they become shaky, then what happens is that the taghut lead them astray. They take them out of light into darkness. أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. Those are the companions of the fire, and they will abide eternally therein. Remember that remember that when it comes to guidance, when it comes to hidayah, there are three types of hidayah, or three stages of hidayah. The first stage of hidayah is hidayah irshad, that a person is given knowledge and guidance and direction as to what is right and what is wrong, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden. The second level of hidayah is hidayah of tawfiq, that after knowledge a person has the ability to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes, to actually bring that knowledge into action. And this happens only by the tawfiq of Allah. And the third level of guidance is hidayah tathbeet. And what is that? That a person becomes firm, consistent, and stable and steadfast. Not that they become, shaky, and then they become unstable and inconsistent, and eventually they quit. So all of these stages are necessary. And this means that we must desire guidance first and foremost, and keep asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that guidance. And if we become weak, whether that is in our knowledge or in our action, then remember that the taghut are many. The darkness is great, and the danger is great. So protect yourself, save yourself. Hold on to al-urwatul wuthqa at all costs, and keep asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance, and never do anything that will deprive you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wilaya. Keep asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His friendship. أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. Because it is clarified over here that those who go from light into darkness, then such people will be the inmates of hell, and they will abide therein eternally. Now there's an illustration of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the wali, the friend of those who believe, how He guides them, how He brings them out of darkness into light. The first example, the first story that is given, أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِي حَاجَّ إِبْرَاهِيمَ فِي رَبِّهِ أَنْ آتَاهُ اللَّهُ الْمُلْكَ. Have you not considered the one who argued with Ibrahim about his Lord? Why? Because Allah had given him kingship. It is said that this was Nimrud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him kingship. He was a great king, a very powerful king. And because of that, what did he do? He argued with Ibrahim alayhi salam about Allah, about the existence of Allah. So what happened? إذ قال إبراهيم ربي الذي يحيي ويميت. When Ibrahim said, my Lord is the one who gives life and causes death. What an excellent evidence Ibrahim alayhi salam gave. That Allah is the one who is the source of life, and He is the one who gives death also. So if anything is alive, it's because Allah created it. So he basically said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the cause, the reason behind all of this existence. قَالَ أَنَا أُحْيِي وَأُمِيتُ. That king, he said, I am the one who gives life and who gives death. And it is said that he had two of his prisoners brought, and one he spared and the other he killed. So he said, look, I give life, I control death. Ibrahim alayhi salam didn't argue over there, because clearly the man was shallow in his knowledge. قال إبراهيم فإن الله يأتي بالشمس من المشرق فأتي بها من المغرب فبهت الذي كفر. So Ibrahim alayhi salam said, indeed Allah brings up the sun from the east, so you bring it up from the west. So what happened? فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ. The disbeliever was overwhelmed. He was speechless. He was shocked, dumbfounded. He didn't know what to say. وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ. And Allah does not guide the wrongdoing people. So we see over here that this incident illustrates the belief in the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the first step. This is the foundation of guidance, that first and foremost a person believes that there is God. And what is the proof of that? The proof of that is that if there is anything living, if there is any life, anything that exists, well, where did it come from? Where did this earth come from? And we know that things don't happen randomly. Things don't just appear out of nowhere. Everything exists because it came from somewhere. There is a cause. So if we were to go back to the cause of this entire existence, this beautiful creation, which is not random, it's by design, then that cause, right? Who is it that caused all of this, that brought all of this into existence? That being is Allah. He is God. He is the one whom we worship. He is the one who owns everything. And He is the one who deserves that we worship Him. Another evidence of this is the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fact that Allah exists is the fact that the sun, comes from the east, right? It rises from the east, meaning all the changes that are happening, whether that change is big or small, there's someone who is causing all of that to happen. So who is that being? That being is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one who created the heavens and the earth. And He is the one who causes the night to overcome the day. And He causes the day to overcome the night. And these are all evidences of the existence of God. The next story illustrates belief in the power of God. So it is said, أو كالذي مر على قرية وهي خاوية على عروشها قال أنى يحيي هذه الله بعد موتها. Or consider such an example as the one who passed by a township which had fallen into ruin. It is said that this was Uzair alayhi salam. And he was passing by this town, and it was such that the entire town was in ruins, meaning the entire population had been destroyed. No sign of life, no people living over there. But the houses were there, empty, desolate. Walls had fallen, ceilings, the roofs had fallen. And it was very obvious that once upon a time, this place was inhabited by people. It was full of life, but now that place was empty. So when he saw all that death and destruction, he wondered, قَالَ أَنَّى يُحْيِي هَذِهِ اللَّهُ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا. He wondered that how will Allah bring this to life after its death? And he wasn't wondering how is it even possible, but he was wondering the nature of it. That when there is death and destruction at such a large scale, then how will this entire population be brought back to life? And when they died such a long time ago, how is it possible to find their remains in all of this mess and decay and ruin? So as he was wondering, what happened? فَأَمَاتَهُ اللَّهُ مِئَةَ عَامٍ ثُمَّ بَعَثَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused him to die for 100 years, and then He resurrected him. He revived him after 100 years. قَالَ كَمْ لَبِثْتَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him that how long have you remained here? The man said, قَالَ لَبِثْتُ يَوْمًا أَوْ بَعْضَ يَوْمٍ. He said, I have remained here a day or just a part of a day, not very long. قَالَ بَلْ لَبِثْتَ مِئَةَ عَامٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, rather, you have remained here for 100 years. فَانْظُرْ إِلَى طَعَامِكَ وَشَرَابِكَ لَمْ يَتَسَنَّهْ. So take a look at your food and your drink. It has not decayed. Your food and drink has not changed with time. It has not gone stale or become moldy. وَانْظُرْ إِلَى حِمَارِكَ وَلِنَجْعَلَكَ آيَةً لِلنَّاسِ. And look at your donkey, and we will make you a sign for the people. وَانْظُرْ إِلَى الْعِظَامِ كَيْفَ نُنْشِزُهَا ثُمَّ نَكْسُوهَا لَحْمًا. And then look at the bones of your donkey, how we raise them and then we cover them with flesh. فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ قَالَ أَعْلَمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. And when it became clear to him, he said, I know that Allah is over all things competent. And in the story we see, basically what happened is that it is said that this was Uzair alayhi salam. And when he saw that entire town, the entire population had died, he wondered, how will every single one of these people be resurrected? And this was out of curiosity. And he really wanted to know. He was not debating over here. He was not denying over here. He was wondering. But we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings clarity and guidance to the people who seek guidance, to the people who want guidance. So what happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused him to die for 100 years. And then during that time we see that the man's food and drink remained exactly as it was, unchanged over time. And what happened to the donkey? The donkey died. It had turned into bones. It was decaying basically. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned this to him that look, your food and drink is right there. Now, food, okay, it's understandable. Food, okay, fine. It's amazing that it did not, decay. But drink, any drink is something, water or any other form of drink, and you would expect that it would, evaporate over time. But it was there. And then we see that the donkey, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resurrected the donkey before him. Yani the bones and the flesh and everything. He made Uzair alayhi salam witness all of this by, with his own eyes. And so he said that I know that Allah is over all things competent. So there's a number of things we learn from this. First of all, this incident illustrates to us the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, it is not enough for us to believe that God exists. It is also necessary for us to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the power to resurrect the dead. And He will resurrect the dead. The day of judgment is true. The accounting before Allah is true. It is happening because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create all of this world and this life and everything in vain. There is a consequence to all of this. So believing in Allah and believing in the last day, both are essential. Both are primary pillars of faith, you could say. And then we see in this example the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we believe that God exists and we also believe that God is all powerful. He is La ilaha illahu and He is Al-Hayyul Qayyum. And only when a person believes that God is all powerful can they actually believe in Allah, can they actually believe in God. The reason why many people doubt the existence of God is because they don't understand who God is. When they think of God, they think of the creation. They think of the limitations of the creation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above those limitations. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can resurrect what He wants, when He wants. He can give death when He wants, and He can bring to life what and when He wants. So He is such that anna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. The fact is that Allah is over all things competent. And then we also learn in this example about how it is important for us to always ask from a place of faith, from a place of genuine curiosity. Whenever we find something difficult to comprehend, let us not come with arrogance that, oh, how come it's like this and how come it's like that? But, this is what studies show and this is what science shows and this is what, happens in the animal kingdom. Don't go on bringing your little knowledge, challenging God's commands. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is all perfect. So be humble before Him. And when you have a question, when you are wondering about something, then yes, wonder, ask, but always from a place of faith and a place of humility and a place of genuine curiosity. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ أَرِنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. A third example is given over here. And mention when Ibrahim alayhi salam said, my Lord, show me how you give life to the dead. So we see that now. First is the example of Nimrud, right, who came from a place of arrogance and denial. Then was the example of Uzair alayhi salam, who came from a place of faith, of course, but from a place of curiosity. And then we see the example of Ibrahim alayhi salam, who wanted to increase in his conviction. So you see there are levels of faith, right? Or there are levels. There are people who deny. There are people who barely believe. There are people who accept. And then there are people who have knowledge. So increase in your faith, increase in your understanding. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ أَرِنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. So Ibrahim alayhi said, my Lord, show me how you give life to the dead. Meaning, give me the ability to see it happen with my own eyes. I want to see it. قَالَ أَوَلَمْ تُؤْمِنْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him, have you not believed? Ibrahim alayhi said, قَالَ بَلَى وَلَكِنْ لِيَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبِي. Yes, of course I believe, but I ask only that my heart may be satisfied. So the reason behind this request was not doubt. It was not how resurrection would be possible. He wasn't wondering. No, he wanted to see with his own eyes in order that his heart may be completely satisfied. The thing is that yaqeen, any conviction even, or knowledge or faith, has its levels. One is that you know something, you believe in something because you have heard about it, right? Someone reliable has informed you. And this is ilmul yaqeen. The other is ainul yaqeen, that you believe in something because you have seen it with your own eyes. You have firsthand, experience in terms of observation. And the third is haqqul yaqeen, to have absolute conviction because now you have experienced it yourself. So, for example, a person may have heard that a certain fruit is bitter, right? Why? Because they read it in a book. And then they see with their own eyes that someone is eating it and they're making these weird faces, right? So it's very obvious that what they're eating is bitter. But then when a person eats it themselves and they realize, yes, it is actually bitter. This is, as we learn in hadith, that لَيْسَ الْخَبَرُ كَالْمُعَايَنَةِ, that hearing about something is not like observing it, and experiencing something yourself is not even like observing it, right? When you experience it yourself, when you witness something with your own eyes, the level of your faith, your conviction, it increases. So Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said, al-yaqinu al-imanu kullu, that yaqeen, conviction, is actually faith. So we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for yaqeen. And we should seek yaqeen by increasing in our knowledge, by increasing in our understanding, and by always asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance. Because when a person has yaqeen, then their sins will be forgiven. When a person has yaqeen, then they will be admitted into paradise. So Ibrahim alayhi salam asked, قَالَ فَخُذْ أَرْبَعَةً مِّنَ الطَّيْرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, take 4 birds. فَصُرْهُنَّ إِلَيْكَ ثُمَّ جَعَلْ عَلَى كُلِّ جَبَلٍ مِّنْهُنَّ جُزْءًا. And then commit them to yourself, meaning tame them. And once you have tamed them, then you should slaughter them and put on each hill a portion of them. ثُمَّ دُعُوهُنَّ. And then you should call them, يَأْتِينَكَ سَعْيًا. They will come flying to you in haste. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. And you should know that Allah is exalted in might and wise. And it's amazing, when a person has tamed a bird, then even when they're outside, if they call their bird will come to them. Even though their bird has the ability to fly away, but because the owner who has tamed the bird is calling the bird will come flying. Why? Because the bird knows that this is my owner, right? This is the one who will give me food. This is the one with whom I am safe. This is the one whom I trust. So Ibrahim a.s. was told that train the birds first, tame them, and then slaughter them and put their pieces of their flesh on different hills. And you will see that they will come to you running, rushing when you will call them, right? So what does this show? This shows that even if this was, of course, a miracle that happened to Ibrahim alayhi salam. This wouldn't happen to you or I if we were to do this. But what this incident illustrates is, first of all, that even if the remains of a person are scattered all over the earth, it is not difficult for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring them together. It is not difficult for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to resurrect the dead. It is not hard for Allah. Inna dhalika ala Allahi yasir. This is easy for Allah. And then what this incident illustrates also is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who created the creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala owns them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created them on a fitrah, where each creature and every body knows that Allah is the creator. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call them, why will they not respond? They will respond. This is the nature on which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the creation. So this incident, again, what does it illustrate? The evidence of the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all powerful and that He will certainly resurrect the dead. So these are 2 matters that we must believe in with absolute conviction. The oneness of Allah and the certainty of the day of judgment.